Now we have our next speaker, Snehith, who is joining us. He is a business intelligence and analytics manager and a Tableau enthusiast. He has set up a Tableau practice at his organisation, and he loves training analysts within his company on various Tableau topics. He loves also to work with the local community to showcase Tableau via the Hyderabad Tableau user group. He dwells at the confluence of data, technology, art, and strategy, and he's here to talk to you today about developing a Tableau culture at your organisation. Take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Fee. Just a quick check. Are you able to see my full screen, and are you able to hear me?
Yes, but I can see your screen, and I'm also able to hear you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, whoever are joining across the world. Thank you for joining Tableau Fringe Fest APAC. So I will be speaking today on developing a Tableau culture at your organization from an education and engagement standpoint. Just again, a quick intro about myself. I am Snehith Allamraju. I am a global business intelligence manager at Noble Biocare, which is a Envista company, a dental company. I have around 12 years of experience in the BI and analytics domain, working across data warehousing, ERP, CRM visualization, and analytics tools. I am a Tableau Desktop certified specialist and certified associate, and I'm also a certified BI consultant and an Azure data scientist. So when we talk about Tableau education or engagement per se, right? So we already are thinking about having a prerequisites. We are already assuming that you have Tableau as a part of your organization. Some prerequisites that you would have to think about when you look at the analytics in terms of Tableau is, whether you have an analytics strategy or not, right? Before you even go to the education or the engagement part, these are the few things that you need to already have in place. I'm assuming that you would have in place. Right. So for people who are new, so you need to have an analytics strategy, right? How can the team or the user understand whether Tableau is the right tool for them based upon, what they want versus based upon, what they have as a part of their organization. Is it a good roadmap to have? What would the roadmap look like for them? Then you talk about having good data engineering and data ops practices, whether it is CI/CD, making sure that you have your systems and data layers prepared and ready for consumption, right? You need to ensure that you build an agile architecture so that you can keep moving around the boxes and making sure that you build upon them as and when new data comes in. Have strong metadata requirements for your users so that they can easily figure out what data sources to use, what fields mean what, right? And then have your server architecture prepared for success, right? Ensure that you have monitoring enabled as a part of your Tableau server, because that is more like a prerequisite for measuring your engagement. And then you have to define criteria as to how would you define your users in terms of segmenting them, whether they are creators or viewers or users or explorers. How would you segment them? What is the criteria? Does it come from you? Does it come from the IT team, or how does that work? Is something that you already would have in place, right? You would already have defined a good content governance strategy, whether you're using live data sources, whether you want to use extracts, what is the process of creating and sharing these, certifying these data sources, and ensuring that you have data stewards as a part of the business, right? And then, onboarding processes with regards to project structure or data folders, what kind of data sources you have, how do you measure visualization performance, right? So ease of access is critical to start off any Tableau engagement at an organization. So you have to make it easy for the users to reach out to you. They need to know where they could go to. If you are a BI team or if you are an IT team, end users like business users need to know how they can reach out to you. You need to ensure that maybe you can have an authorization form, for example. So we use an authorization form that users can fill up, and then we know then what their requirements are. You would already have decided upon your project level, authorizations or group level access security. So these are a few prerequisites before you even start off with developing the Tableau culture and making sure that you're educating or engaging your users accordingly. Okay, so now that you have your prerequisites taken care of, let us look at from an education standpoint, how you can engage or how you would work with your users, right? So typically Tableau does a very good job of putting it out there, a lot of content that you can consume, that the first time users can consume. Sometimes it can get overwhelming for them, right? So you have official training videos that Tableau provides. You have starter kits that help see and understand your data from a Tableau perspective. Tableau also suggests an onboarding toolkit or checklist that ensures that you assess your workforce training and education needs and make sure that you are putting them on the path of success. Then you have official Tableau e-learning platform, which users can sign up as a creator or as an explorer. There are multiple learning paths as a part of that as well. So you can do hands-on training or knowledge activities to ensure that you retain what you learn. And it also helps in good guided knowledge. So that's more of the official education that Tableau provides and that's available out there for the users. And then of course you have this whole big ecosystem of community that we have very strong, wonderful community of practitioners, teachers and learners as well, and people out there who are willing to teach, contribute, and spread their knowledge. There are blogs and articles as well from the Tableau community. You have Makeover Monday or Workout Wednesday as competitions or as things that people can use to practice. And then of course it might be overwhelming for new users to start off directly with something like that, but these are the options that are out there, and users can start also looking at Tableau Public for some inspiration, right? So what do we do? How do we as a company look at education or approach education of new users? So we, of course, once we onboard a new user as a creator or as a viewer, we first ask them to go through the official training videos as a part of our onboarding checklist. We start off with that, and then we go through our internal toolkit or a checklist that basically looks at, okay, what are the different things that a user needs to have and what he can go through and how he can start off practicing. So maybe we start off with a Superstore data set or like an Excel sheet that they already have as a local data source, and then start building their knowledge on that. And then we also have Tableau Tuesday training hours that we do. These are more like open webinars that new users or existing people can join in. And we usually discuss different topics on different Tuesdays, and the topics range from basic level to the advanced level, as well as specific topics that users might request you to do some trainings on. So that's something that we do. And then we also do on request one-on-one trainings. We do department level trainings, and we do group workshops, which might range from half a day to 1 day, which might be more classroom based. So that's something that we do today as a part of our onboarding or our education process of our Tableau users. And what Tableau can help you with, and this is something that you would have to always think about, that training users or educating users is a two-step process, and both Tableau and your own organization can work and should work, in my opinion, hand to hand in that. That way, you're making sure that you're also getting the best that Tableau can provide as a part of education. So Tableau can set up Tableau Days. So Tableau Days, for those who don't know, are usually full-day events that Tableau can help organize. So these are company-wide events that to share stories. You can have your data stewards who are advanced level users also come in and showcase their knowledge or what they have done as a part of your organization. Usually the topics range from keynotes from an external speakers. There are use cases that are presented. You have technical discussions. If you have server and Strike administrators, you can do that on the side. There is internal training that Tableau can provide, and then of course there can be Q&A sessions as well. So Tableau Days are usually good opportunities for new and existing users to collaborate, and also Tableau can then add in their value as well. And then you can do lunch and learn sessions. This is something that we do once or twice in a year, which are events that are basically informal in nature, typically to help users learn from each other. These can be scheduled monthly, if we have the cadence. These can be lunchtime meets where people can bring in their food, or you can order food, and you can make sure that you are discussing specific topics or just having an open conversation. So these definitely increase the attendance rate based on what we see, because people tend to do more peer-to-peer learning than doing a more individual-based training as well. And then what Tableau can also help you with is, set up dedicated tech talks. So these are, again, like online webinars that are specific to your own organization. Again, these are all that can come as a part of your account management. So you can contact your account managers to see if they could do something like that. So Tableau did one for our organizations. They started off with doing how to start visualizing the data, right? And then taking through the basics of Tableau and going through advanced topics like table calculations, making sure that, how do you start off with an Excel with Tableau and then go through advanced calculations, building dashboards, and then doing joins, etc., etc. So they take each topic, and you have like 1 hour webinars that Tableau's tech team can do dedicated talks for your organization as well. So that's something that I think you should definitely look at, and that will definitely help the user. So we did have, I think, almost 80% of our creator community join in to these tech talks when Tableau organized them. And that way we made sure that, or they made sure that, they get official training as well directly, rather than then going through, pre-recorded videos. And it can get very interactive as well. So it helps the users as well as a part of the process. So some recommendations and learnings from our own personal or my own personal learnings. Some people can choose not to go through the standard content. Some people say, that's pretty basic for me, or it's not tailor-made for me, and so they might not be comfortable with the official training videos, and that's okay. There are other avenues, as we discussed earlier, that they could choose. And again, we need to keep in mind that data literacy is subjective, right? So make sure that you're starting with the data that your audience works with, maybe. So you have to differentiate between analysts versus executives, or creators versus viewers, or maybe you can gauge the expertise of the user that you're working with, and then based on that, you have a learning curve corresponding to that. So tailor your content or trainings according to your audience. That's something that I've learned. Develop through coaching. Make sure that you have users who have their skills that they need for their job, and having regular conversations with them, whether in person or having regular cadence meetings, always helps. And start small. Always make sure that you have something that they can work with, the data that they can already understand, right? And then start building on top of that. Promoting and reinforcing best practices always helps in knowledge management. So make sure that you are also showcasing other people's work, so that people get ideas that, okay, this is how this can also be done, and that also inspires them correspondingly. And then progression of skills over time always works. Don't so start off with the basics, then do desktop 1, for example, and then based upon the learning curve, might have to segment some users and push them onto desktop 2 versions, or and making sure that you are keeping the other people engaged as well. So those are a few learnings from what I learned as a part of our education process. So that nicely drops into the engagement part. So now you have your users who are starting to be trained, who are getting a hang of what Tableau is. They're working with their own data sources. They're publishing their own content, and they are making sure that you're making sure that your trainings are well oiled, your systems are taken care of. But then how do you make sure that you're sustaining that engagement, right? So as a part of the overall organization, again, different teams can work as siloed organizations, but it's only when you bring them together and make them talk to each other is when you have good collaboration and engagement. And again, it also depends on your organization structure. Sometimes you have organizations that are working only in departments, or they are working only across specific verticals or horizontals. And again, each one is doing their own thing. So sometimes it becomes difficult to get people together. And that's where having a community of practice, and this is something that my director talked about yesterday, and I really love that idea. Having a community of practice is something that can help drive the engagement, right? And usually when we talk about user engagement, there are two types, right? One, you have a direct user engagement, so people who are creators, who are publishing the content, or who are explorers who are basically working with published content. And then there are indirect user engagement, like subscriptions, people who get emails or PDFs, and through alerts, right? So there are different ways of measuring these metrics. So something like number of users who are logged into your server, if you have a server instance, when did they last log in, and making sure that what are the most viewed workbooks. These are the three metrics that you could use, for example, to look at, okay, how is my content being viewed, which users are engaged, which got a license, but as time progressed, they just are not engaged at all, they're not using it. So why do we need to measure engagement? It helps understand user behaviors. The insights from measuring engagement can actually help plan scale, because if you have to do a budgeting cycle as a part of your whole Tableau ecosystem, if you have to add more juice by adding more servers or get more licenses, uh, measuring this engagement part, looking at the number of users or looking at the content can help plan that scale. It helps measure the performance or the scalability. Understanding the relationship between your data sources and published content, the users, the server performance, all of these individual factors, they basically help to plan for future growth also. And again, as I said earlier, it indirectly impacts licensing requirements and hardware as well. So my suggestion would be to start off with, in terms of your engagement for your own internal team, make sure that your server administrators and site administrators are talking to each other, because then you can quickly look at, okay, how does the user engagement look like, and how is it impacting your hardware as well, how is it impacting your server. So that way you can plan for new users or new use cases as a part of the platform. And then how can you measure the engagement? There are three metrics that Tableau recommends: the where, the who, and the what. So the where is, the traffic, what kind of traffic is being driven to your Tableau server. So whether it is specific content or specific workbooks or specific data sources, which users or who are the users who are logging in the most or publishing the most, and then measure your list of creators versus who are publishing the most, to see if people are actually making the most of their investment on a creator license. And then what kind of content is being viewed most? Is it specific departments or specific units or verticals that are using Tableau the most? And what kind of engagement is happening there, whether it is more direct engagement or more indirect engagement. And that's where the Tableau default administrative views as an IT team or as a BI team can help. You can also create custom views as well. Just look at how the server performance is, what kind of engagement users are having in terms of these three metrics. So traffic to views or data sources, can help understand the more popular content. And then the means of engagement, and this is where I would probably spend a good amount of time, because we talked about the community of practice earlier. So what worked for us is we built like a community network diagram for our community of practice. So we have, okay, who are our basic stakeholders across multiple departments, and who are the ones who are actively engaged with us, and who we think we can help in terms of engagement. So we have a good network diagram that's very helpful to understand and to connect the dots as to who is working with whom, right? Have a good distribution list to make sure that you are sending out your updates to all of the Tableau users. What we also do is organized analyst conferences. So these are basically places where you get people from multiple departments together and do like a two-day or a 3-day workshop. Tableau can also come in and do a couple of sessions there if required. So the idea is basically for the analysts or for the business users to share their own best practices and talk to each other on what works and what doesn't work. So it's more like, a physical place for people to come together, right? And then you can do champion development as well. So people who are advanced level users, you can declare them as champion. You have this whole gamification concept as well, wherein you start from newbie and all the way to a Jedi and beyond, right? So you can do that as a part of your engagement. That way you're making sure that you're having an internal competition, if you can call it healthy competition, for users to engage themselves in. Have a collaboration platform like an intranet site that users can go to, wherein you can host your trainings, you can host your training content, or you can post your updates from an internal user group or an analyst conference, for example, right? So make sure that you're establishing regular communication and meeting cadence with your users. That way, it always helps to keep in touch and understand what user needs are. In person is always good. If not, having constant meetings with them offline as well also helps in strengthening the relationships, right? You can do whiz games, for example. Have run an iron whiz competition within your own organization. Do monthly makeover Mondays, for example, if that's something that you could do. There are loads of variations that you could do. You can have a whizathon or a whiz hackathon that you can also organize across these multiple teams. One thing that can work and that has worked for us is let the champion set the example, because then what we have seen is that actually drives the engagement, and you keep getting more and more requests, because word spread fast, and if people really like something, what they look at, and if they have examples to work with, and if they have ease of access, I think the community spreads even faster based upon my experience. So make sure that your champions are also presenting as a part of the Tableau Day, so that it gives them more visibility, and they can, for example, proctor your skill belts. For example, you can have a skill belt like a gamification part, and they can help run whiz competitions, or represent you externally in, say, a local Tableau user group, or in maybe presenting at Tableau conference, right? So again, this is our SharePoint page that we have set up for our organization. So something like this can be a basic starting point for users to go to, and then whatever you could do, whether setting up an internal Tableau user group and making monthly meetings, that can also help drive the engagement part. Again, recommendations and learnings, you can identify facilitators to make sure that it's not just your team, you as a BI team or an IT team. It's not just you, but you also have people who can hold the flag for you on the business side. Start small, build prototypes, sort out your licensing. That's something that you also that's sometimes kind of a hindrance for us, because of issues with Tableau licensing. Make sure that you have your licensing in place, and it's a smooth process, whether it is through a purchase order or whether it is through direct payment. Sort out your purchasing, because that can be a hindrance sometimes. Offer and assign roles in Tableau user group. First of all, have a user group, and then see if people can be interested in picking up a few roles, right? Engage users through constant feedback. So remember, we talk about CI and CD as a part of your overall data ops or DevOps. This would be CE, which is continuous engagement. So that make sure that you have feedback coming in from the users. You can do a data plus women as well. That's something that would definitely work. I have seen with my friends in other organizations where data plus women groups have actually driven more engagement. You can always get guest speakers from Tableau and the local community to present at all of your Tableau days or lunch and learns as well. What also helped for us in terms of licensing, say for example, is we have a code tracker wherein we look at, okay, who are the users requesting for how many licenses and what kind of codes are going out, and at what point of time are we in the process of procuring those licenses. That's something that has also helped for us. Yeah, so in terms of next steps for us, so we have put in the basic building blocks for engagement. What we would be looking at implementing is a skill belts program. For those who are not aware, definitely check out the skill belts in a box session from Tableau Conference 18. That's a very nice session that basically helps you frame, build that framework of how you can set up a skill builds program within your own organization. We want to do customized trainings for certifications. There have been requests from users to see how if we can help them get Tableau certified. So that's something that we are looking at organizing. We want to do an org-wide iron West at some point of time, and have an official Tableau user group that we could then utilize as a part of our organization. So those are some next steps from our standpoint. Again, takeaway slide for you with all of the content that we have had today. Education and engagement is an important part of success when you have you might have an executive strategy, you might have a data strategy, you might have the Tableau infrastructure and the licenses, but without education and engagement, there is no success with all of these ingredients. So we talked about training, resources, and guidance. What kind of training users can take, what kind of resources are available that that the users can access, and what Tableau can provide, and how you can provide guidance to the new users. And then we talked about collaboration. How do you make sure that you build that community of practice, have it at a platform level, make sure that you have a common portal that users can go to, and ensure that you are engaging your users continuously, right? Ultimately, we are all here to help our users grow. So if you have Excel, nerds, we want to see if we can move them over to using Tableau, which is the best in class BI tool out there. So I think that's where we can provide value, and that's how education and engagement can provide value to the business users or the analysts. So again, these are some useful resources that I found and that helped me to build this session as well. So feel free to check those out if you're trying to set up education or engagement as a part of your own Tableau, to build your own Tableau culture at your organization. That's all I had. I'm open for some questions if there are any.
Hi, Snehith. It's Fee here again. Thank you so much for sharing all of that volume of content and also these great resources. It was definitely a great presentation. To kick off the Q&A, I do have one question for you. There's so much that you've got here in terms of the process that that people need to address in driving some great adoption. Do you have any recommendations about the first place that people should start, or how did you decide where you should start first and then move through it?
Yeah, so I think the first place definitely for me, what has worked has been the Tableau training videos. Again, they are very basic in nature, but at least it helps to start off with when you have a trial license. So when users comes to us and ask us, okay, how can I get started with Tableau? We say, okay, go and get the 15-day trial license, right? Download that, play around with the sample data, go through the official training views. I think that's a very good starting point because it covers the entire gambit of users, right from the basic to the advanced. There's something there for everybody. And the starter kits have also been very helpful because it also has the inspiration in terms of how to build, what to consider when you're building visual analytics, and then how that can be incorporated when you're building a Tableau-based report or a dashboard. So those are the two things that I would recommend to start off with.
Thank you. So we have some questions that have come through via the chat. And in terms of your training, and I know that you've talked about the videos, we're curious to understand a little bit more about how you run your training. Is it structured internally with power users?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. So we have people who are new to the organization. Again, we have specific topics like basic to advanced. So if there are new users, they would usually join the basic training webinars. And if there are advanced users who want to refresh, their memory on a specific topic or have a specific use case they usually come up with that, and then we usually go through how to use Tableau to work with that specific use case. So it's a mix of both basic and advanced, if you could call that.
Thank you. And the next question is, how's the engagement with your training? Are people actively joining it, or is it slowly being adopted?
Yeah, I think to start off with, it was slow because again, we usually have it at a specific time. And again, depends on the time zone, if people are available, and if more people, if we don't have many people who are using Tableau in that specific time zone, then, not many would join. So we are trying to also spread it out a little bit. To start off with, it was slow, to be honest. We had single-digit users, but now we see that as and when we keep doing this Tableau Tuesday, sometimes, there have been days where we had nobody joining in as well, to be honest. But again, we have to keep that continuity so that users know that there is this thing that happens irrespective. So if they need something, they can, join in whenever they want. And usually, what we also do is sometimes tailor it to specific teams who have training needs. So we gather a few people together, and then we use that as a training guide as well. So to start off with, it was slow, but we see that as and when we have more people joining in, we are seeing adoption faster.
That's great. So there's no other questions that have come through on the chat there. Thank you so much for joining us. If people would like to follow you, what's your Twitter handle?
My Twitter handle is What Are You Talking? So WATRUTALKIN.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing. We really appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks, Fee. Thanks for coordinating.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.